There's something strange about human attraction that most men never understand until years later, and by then, the opportunity has already passed them by. A woman can slowly fall emotionally connected to a man without ever directly saying the words. No dramatic confession, no obvious announcement, no moment where she suddenly looks into your eyes and reveals everything she feels inside. Instead, it happens quietly. It happens in fragments, in the way she starts looking for you in crowded places without even realizing it, in the way her voice softens around you compared to everyone else, in the way she remembers tiny details about your life that most people would instantly forget. And the truth is, most men completely miss these signs because they're expecting attraction to look loud, obvious, and impossible to misunderstand. But emotional attraction in women rarely works that way. Female psychology moves beneath the surface. It reveals itself through energy, through emotional shifts, through instinctive behaviors that even she may not fully understand herself. So, if you've ever wondered whether a woman secretly feels drawn to you on a deeper level, whether she's slowly opening herself emotionally, mentally, and psychologically without directly admitting it, then listen carefully because what you're about to hear may completely change the way you understand attraction forever. There comes a point when a woman begins emotionally investing in a man, and from that moment forward, her behavior subtly changes around him. Not because she's trying to manipulate him, not because she's playing games, but because emotional connection naturally changes the way a person acts when someone begins mattering to them deeply. One of the first signs appears in proximity. She starts finding reasons to be near you more often. Maybe she sits closer to you than necessary. Maybe she extends conversations longer than she normally would. Maybe she suddenly appears wherever you are more frequently than coincidence can explain. Human beings naturally move closer to people who make them feel emotionally safe, emotionally excited, or emotionally understood. And women are especially driven by emotional comfort. A woman who feels connected to you will slowly start orbiting around your presence because your energy begins feeling familiar to her nervous system. She may not even realize she's doing it consciously, but her instincts pull her towards you anyway. And when a woman starts feeling emotionally safe with a man, her body language begins revealing things her words never fully say. Her tone changes around you. Her eyes linger slightly longer than they do with other people. Her facial expressions soften without effort. She mirrors your energy, your pace, your humor, and sometimes even your posture. Most men think attraction begins with physical touch, but attraction often begins psychologically long before that. Before she ever admits she likes you, her nervous system already reacts differently around you. She adjusts her hair while speaking to you. She becomes more aware of how she sounds. She pays attention to your reactions more carefully than she does with other men. These aren't random behaviors, they're unconscious emotional alignment. And the deeper her emotional connection grows, the more these behaviors naturally intensify. Another powerful sign appears in the way she listens to you. Most people only listen enough to respond, but a woman who feels emotionally drawn to you listens differently. She listens carefully, intentionally. She stores information about you in her mind, tiny things, your favorite food, your habits, stories you mentioned casually weeks ago, a stressful situation happening in your life, a dream you once talked about late at night when nobody else would have remembered. This isn't random politeness. This is emotional prioritization. When someone becomes emotionally important to a woman, her brain naturally begins attaching significance to details connected to him. And the more emotionally invested she becomes, the more she mentally revisits conversations after they end. That's why she remembers things you forgot saying yourself, because your words stayed in her mind longer than you realized. One of the deepest shifts happens when a woman becomes emotionally curious about you. Surface level attraction focuses on appearances, emotional attraction focuses on identity. Suddenly, she wants to understand how your mind works. She asks deeper questions about your values, your childhood, your beliefs, your goals, your fears, your way of thinking. She studies your emotional reactions. She wants to understand your emotional depth because women emotionally connect through psychological understanding before anything else. She isn't simply making conversation anymore. She's emotionally exploring who you are beneath the surface. And once that curiosity begins, something else usually appears quietly alongside it: emotional sensitivity. A woman who starts emotionally attaching herself to you becomes more aware of where your attention goes, not always dramatically, not possessively, quietly. You'll notice subtle changes if another woman suddenly captures your focus for too long. Her mood shifts slightly, her energy changes. Maybe she becomes quieter for a few moments. Maybe she teases you differently. Maybe she withdraws just enough for you to feel something changed without understanding exactly what it was. Most women won't openly admit jealousy in the early stages of attraction because that would require emotional exposure before trust feels secure. But emotions always reveal themselves through behavior eventually. Emotional investment creates emotional sensitivity. The more emotionally connected she becomes to you, the harder it becomes for her to ignore where your attention flows. And here's where attraction becomes truly meaningful. When a woman begins opening up emotionally, she's doing something extremely personal. A woman can laugh with many men. She can joke with many men. She can spend time with many men casually. But vulnerability is different. Vulnerability is sacred to women because it exposes the emotional parts of themselves they normally protect from the world. So when she starts telling you about her fears, insecurities, emotional wounds, disappointments, or hidden dreams, pay attention. That means trust is forming deeply inside her. And trust is the true foundation of emotional attachment. She watches how you react when she reveals these softer parts of herself. Do you judge her? Do you dismiss her emotions? Do you stay emotionally calm and present? Because the moment a woman feels emotionally safe with a man, her attachment often deepens rapidly without her even intending it to. Safety for women is not about dominance, it's not about control. It's about emotional steadiness, consistency, patience, and feeling understood without needing to constantly explain herself. Once that emotional safety forms, another powerful sign begins appearing. She starts integrating you into her daily life. She sends you random updates about her day. She tells you little things that seem insignificant. She shares funny moments, frustrations, achievements, and thoughts that don't technically require sharing. Why? Because emotional bonding grows through consistent connection. She wants your presence woven naturally into her routine. That means you're no longer just someone she occasionally speaks to. You're becoming emotionally embedded into her inner world. And perhaps the strongest sign of all is how she begins supporting you emotionally without being asked. She notices when your mood changes. She encourages you when you doubt yourself. She reminds you of your strengths when you forget them. She values your perspective during difficult moments. And she often does all of this quietly, without demanding recognition for it, because emotionally connected women instinctively nurture the connections they value deeply. This is where attraction transforms into emotional investment. She's no longer simply enjoying your attention, she's emotionally choosing you consistently, intentionally, quietly. But this is also where most men make their biggest mistake. The moment they notice a woman emotionally opening up, they rush the process. They pressure her emotionally. They become impatient. They try forcing certainty too quickly. But emotional connection cannot rush without damaging it. Women emotionally open themselves to men who feel emotionally grounded, emotionally mature, and emotionally steady under pressure. Men who listen instead of forcing outcomes. Men who understand that trust grows slowly but powerfully. If she's showing you these signs, don't panic and don't try controlling the connection. Simply become the kind of man she feels safe continuing to open herself to. Because real attraction isn't built through manipulation, games, or pretending to be perfect. Real attraction is built through emotional presence, consistency, maturity, and understanding. Here is the truth most men never realize until much later in life. When a woman truly wants you emotionally, she rarely says it directly in the beginning. Instead, she reveals it through attention, through vulnerability, through emotional investment, through subtle behaviors that quietly say, "You matter to me more than I planned." She slowly lowers her guard. She slowly lets you closer. She slowly allows you access to the private emotional world she keeps hidden from almost everyone else. And if you're emotionally intelligent enough to recognize those signs, you'll realize something powerful. Women are not searching for perfection. They are searching for emotional safety, respect, steadiness, and a man whose presence feels calm rather than chaotic. A man who understands her emotions without trying to control them. A man who listens with intention. A man who remains consistent even when emotions deepen. Because once a woman truly trusts a man emotionally, the connection she feels becomes incredibly deep, deeper than most men realize. She begins imagining your presence in her future, the way you'd sound in ordinary moments, the comfort of your stability during difficult times, the feeling of emotional peace that comes from being understood by someone she can finally relax around. And perhaps that is the deepest truth about female attraction. Women fall deeply for men who make them feel emotionally safe enough to become fully themselves, not performative, not guarded, not constantly defending their hearts, just understood. So, if there's a woman in your life showing these signs, don't take her emotional openness lightly. Don't rush her. Don't manipulate her vulnerability. Respond with maturity, with patience, with emotional steadiness. Because emotional trust is one of the rarest things a woman can give to a man. And once she gives it sincerely, the connection formed between you can become one of the most meaningful experiences either of you will ever feel. If you felt something shift inside you while listening to this, it's because you're beginning to understand what women rarely say out loud but constantly reveal through their behavior. And the more you learn to recognize these emotional signals, the more naturally you'll move through relationships with confidence, clarity, and emotional intelligence. So stand taller, speak calmer, listen deeper, and become the kind of man whose presence feels safe enough for a woman to finally let her guard down around.